We're here today, this afternoon, to discuss the investigation and arrest of Kevin Gonyea, age 50, and Melissa Gonyea, age 35, of 9 Twiss Road in Fort Anne. They're husband and wife, and the case relates to the death of 95-year-old Leona Twiss, who is Kevin Gonyea's grandmother. Initially, sheriff's officers were called to the scene of what was reported as a natural death at the residence. Due to the alertness of the deputies on scene and the investigators that were subsequently called to the scene, they found it possibly suspicious and requested an autopsy. As a result of the autopsy, the findings were that Mrs. Twiss died as a result of strangulation. Once we got that information, the investigation began into the two suspects that were arrested. I'll defer to the district attorney as to any questions about charges or anything related to the prosecution.
What I would add at this point, because it's an ongoing investigation, we're going to be limited as to what we can discuss. But it's been less than 24 hours since we received the report from the medical examiner. And I can't thank the great work of the sheriff's department, but this couldn't have been possible had they not called and BCI out of Greenwich, Major Crimes from Albany, and the FIU unit from Albany responded immediately. And so, as you can tell, I mean, this went from a potential unattended death to a suspected homicide very quickly, and that's because of the effort of everybody here and the response of the state police. So, again, I think because it's an ongoing investigation, however, beyond what's occurred so far with the charges, we're really going to be limited as to what we can answer and what we can add.
Can you say what led the initial responding officers to think that maybe something was amiss here at this point? What kind of made you ask for the autopsy? This would not have been one where you normally ask for an autopsy.
Well,
based on the circumstances?
I think it was observations that the responding officer made at the scene, and really because of his alertness, he brought in the investigators, and they made really good decisions, obviously in hindsight, and I think that just goes to show the professionalism of the department.
What do we say with those observations?
Their awareness. I think it was observations of the victim and probably their sense from at the scene.
Has there been any trouble there in the past that you're aware of? Any calls that you responded to?
Are they known to police?
Yes, we've been called to the residence before.
For Mr. Gonyea being involved in things, or for anything specific?
Domestic disputes between Mr. and Mrs. Gonyea, yes.
So never intended for Leona's?
No.
How many times did that happen? They've only been here about a year or so?
Yeah, since the fall is what we understand, yeah.
How many times have they been out there?
I believe it was twice.
Any arrests?
No.
Can you talk about what you believe Melissa Gonyea's involvement is? I mean, I know her charges were different.
Yeah, she's charged with hiding evidence that was property that was used during the commission of the act.
Can you say what that is?
I think given the nature of a continuing investigation, we wouldn't be able to respond to that at this point. As we move forward, we may be able to develop that further.
Was that evidence recovered, or is it still in the wings somewhere?
Again, I think given the nature of the investigation, we will have to defer comment at this time.
Just three living there, just the two defendants and the deceased were living there?
Yes.
Had that been the case the entire time?
Yes.
Okay, so the grandfather had passed away before the
That's
couple
right.
moved back?
Or you may or may not have touched on this. Is there a motive?
Well, again, you know, this is, we were here all night working on this case, so it's very early in the investigation. So any, speculation of motive would be just that at this time. But, it's safe to say that these two individuals were charged with the care of the victim. And, it's just a sad case when the two people that are charged with the care of the victim end up causing her death.
Sheriff, is that why they moved back? Because the grandfather had passed away, so they were now...
I have to correct that, Mark. They were here prior, so.
They were here before the
Yes.
grandfather passed
Yeah.
away.
Yep.
Do you know for about how long she had been in their care?
I think it was a matter of months.
Yeah, they moved back maybe August of last year, and his grandfather passed in November of last year, so they've been along with Leona since then.
I'm going to assume that the family's been here for quite a while. There's a road with their name on it.
Yes,
So they've probably been here for generations.
yes.
Any idea how long she lived in that residence?
I believe they've lived there a long time, possibly all their life. It's been a long time.
What's their cooperation level right now with you guys?
Again, that kind of speaks to the,
Yeah, I think at this point, again, given the status of it, it's very early on in the investigation. Beyond what we've discussed, I really don't think there's anything else we can answer other than sort of the typical pedigree information.
You can't say whether they cooperated at all, is there
Correct.
cooperation?
Have they been arraigned?
Yes, they were arraigned early this morning.
Was bail set?
Bail was set for the female at, I believe, $30,000 cash, $60,000 bail bond, because the male was charged with an A felony. Bail cannot be set by local court.
Tony, can you characterize, maybe in general terms, this was, as the sheriff mentioned, this was a person they were supposed to be caring for. Were they frustrated in any way? Was this, you know, you said you don't want to mention motive, but is there any indication that they were frustrated with her inability to care for herself?
We're not going to be able to answer that at this point.
Any other family in the area that is cooperating at this point, or at least you're looking into questioning them as well?
It's a large Washington County family, but beyond that, that's all we're going to be able to say.
No other family on that street?
I don't know how many live on that street or in the general area. I don't know if the sheriff knows at this point.
yeah, we still have the lead desk up and running, so we're still tracking down different people that we need to speak to. So again, due to the earliness of this investigation, there's several people that we want to interview.
Any idea how long was she there before being found? Do you know that at this point?
Again, we'll be able to discuss that in greater detail in the future, but at this point, again, keep in mind, at this time yesterday, it was still presumed that it was natural causes, and so in that short order, we were able to, through the great effort of the captain and his team and state police, they got us to this point, but there's still a lot of work left to be done and a lot of information to be developed, and so with the investigation ongoing, I think that we're going to be reluctant to say anything further.
Given the charges both of them face potential consequences for them, jail time, could you touch on that?
A lot will depend on their prior records. Certainly, the top charge for the male is anywhere from, I think, 25 to life, and for the female, I believe they were D felonies. So that has a wide range, generally indeterminate, up to 2 1/3 to 7. Whether they can be consecutive or not will be a discussion. And certainly, there may be more charges in the future, so all of that is going to be determined as the days move on.
Any indication she was actually involved in the homicide itself, or was she specifically just involved in the after?
That's something that we won't be discussing at this point.
Is she still in custody?
He is, yes, without bail.
She?
She is, yes. Yep, as of 9:30 this morning, she was.
Being held here?
Yes.
Can you talk to just the general depravity at this point? I mean, you live a long life, you go through life, and it's supposed to be, you know, your twilight years, and just having a family member, it's got to be shocking.
Absolutely. Yes, and you know, that's what this job is kind of all about, is protecting children and the elderly and those that can't protect themselves. And this is a perfect example of that, where a 95-year-old woman who was relying on others to care for her ended up taking her life. And I'd like to also reiterate what the district attorney said. You know, it's comforting to us when we have cases like this that we can assemble the teams and the investigators that we can to track down the hundreds of leads that come in. And the state police, Greenwich specifically, the BCI, and the forensic unit and the major crimes unit were here until the wee hours of this morning working on this case so that we're able to put this together. And hopefully, as we go forward, we'll be able to have some more answers for you as we get answers ourselves.
Do you know at this point who placed the 911 call?
We do.
Are you releasing that?
No,
Are there still investigators on scene?
I'm not sure.
No, the scene's been released.
Will it be safe for us to go there? Yeah,
It's your own,
Yeah.
your own discretion.
yeah, okay, because we will be.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you coming.
Sheriff, do you have a higher res image? And it's-
Um,